I mean, the holy grail of this would be, Mitch, guy's got a $10 million trade. He calls you up and goes, look, I got a $10 million trade. I'm going to give you 5 of it, but I can't give you the whole 10. Who would you recommend I give the other 5 to? That's the holy grail. That's when you know you've arrived, right? When you're referring to other asset management companies. The power in that's amazing. That's all because of brand.
Many wholesalers move through their careers reacting, responding to the next call, trying to hit the next quota, maybe putting out the next fire. But what if you were different? What if you built your brand on purpose, by design, not by default? Today, I sit down with Mark Warren, a 35-year veteran in financial wholesaling who did just that. During his career, Mark learned how to lead with values, show up with clarity, and turn every advisor meeting into a meeting that matters. If you want to stand out, this conversation is for you. Welcome to the Financial Wholesaler Podcast, conversations about meetings that matter.
Yeah, the branding's really interesting when you're talking about it from a financial wholesaling point. I mean, we can go into the classic marketing 101 class, which is the 4 Ps of marketing, right? Product, promotion, price, and placement. That doesn't necessarily get you there, because if you think about it, for example, in the advent of the ETF world, you now have sort of a price thing where everybody's racing to the bottom floor, if you will, on price, and the margins are going down if you're in the asset management business. And last time I checked, the people going in the asset management business go in there because they want to make a lot of money, one of 2 reasons, and they don't want to see their margins compressed, so they can't make the kind of money, because then you can't retain good talent. So if you're in the brand world, I think people forget to ask this question: do I have a brand by design or default? And the reason I think that's an important question is, if you go, well, I don't really have a brand. You're wholesaling, you're out there, you got some good products. 1 year, your value fund's really good. 3 years later, your private credit fund's good. 5 years later, you got a REIT portfolio that's kind of cool. So it's more of a hot product cycle than an actual your brand. If you go, well, I really don't think I have a brand. Well, you have one. But it's not by design. It's just by default, right? So why not control it? And great brands do a lot of different things, but great brands are very, very cognizant about controlling who they are, what they are, and how they're going to provide whatever it is that they're going to provide for their constituents.
So bring us into what you've learned about branding. And, obviously we have the product side, which kind of corporate makes those decisions, but how we show up individually as a wholesaler in that. What are some things that we can do? What are some things we need to know or learn?
I think there is a perception that maybe my product will get me all the way through. In some cases, hot products do that. I'm not naive to think that isn't the case. But really, there's a world, there's a phenomena that occurs. Unilever and Procter & Gamble spent billions on this stuff. It's called shelf of the mind theory. Shelf of the mind theory says the way our brains are built, you only have room in your mind for 2 or 3 viable products in any particular product category. So when you start going out to 4 or 5 products, and when I'm saying products now, I'm saying asset management companies, not specific funds within an asset management world. So if I'm a financial advisor and I believe that shelf of the mind theory is real, then the lion's share of all my money is going to go to 2 or 3 asset management companies, period. It's just the way shelf of the mind theory works in that business or any other business for that matter. So then the question becomes whether it's deodorant, toothpaste, or laundry detergent, right? Or financial services. I'm really in a fight every day as a wholesaler for one of those 3 spots. I got to really be thinking about that, because if I'm not thinking about it, I'm not in control of my brand, and therefore I don't have that long-term residual effect of continuing to be able to grow my practice, have the same people come back and become repeat customers, and do the things that I want them to do because I really haven't branded out. So I'm not in control of my brand. They only pick 2 or 3. If I'm not in there, how do I, A, get in there, and then B, how do I stay in there because it's so hard to get in there? And it's shelf of the mind theory at its best. Wholesaling is a really great model for executing well on shelf of the mind theory.
Sure. So we know, too, that most products today maybe more than they did 10, 20, 30 years ago, are performing somewhat at a baseline of the same minimum standard.
Yep.
So I think financial advisors have an expectation when you come in. The product is going to perform at a certain minimum level or better. So there is the opportunity is really in the individual, the financial wholesaler showing up with the product to really begin to set themselves apart. How do you see those things connecting?
Yeah. So, I can tell you that over the course of my career, there were a lot of trash cans in financial advisors' offices I want to throw up in when I heard this statement. All XYZ funds are all the same.
Right.
All XYZ ETFs are the same. All ABC SMAs are the same. And the trip there is, then you want to go in and be overly prone to defend that which you already know is true with just facts and figures. And I'm not suggesting they're not important.
Yeah.
But if that's the only way you go about it, you better have some really good facts and figures, because it takes a long time for someone to change a name in their book of business from ABC money manager to XYZ money manager, based on a couple facts of, well, we had a 25% or 25 basis point better return, or we had a 0.5% better yield, or whatever. That's just not the reality of the world that we lived in. So by branding up, you could create, if you will, the compression in that spread.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this because, Mitch, I want to work with you at ESA.
Yeah.
I want to work with you at your firm. Mm-hmm. I want to be a part of that. What does that look like for me? And here's what the benefits are to me. Not just the benefits of the product, but the benefits to that particular financial advisor and that relationship with that wholesaler.
Yeah. So is there a process you can talk a financial wholesaler through, and like when they approach branding, at least the way you've approached it, here's a couple things that you can do or know?
Yeah, let's just hit on a couple things. Now again, when I make this statement, I want to make clear that great brands may do other things also, but when you look at like the 100 greatest brands in the world, all industries, or you look at the top 5 brands in a particular industry, they all have these same 3 traits. So let me just say what they are, then we can kind of go back and ham and egg it, if you will, about each one. So great brands do, again, they can do other things, but they do 3 things really well. Number 1 is they make it easy to acquire. The second thing is they perform. So whatever it is they say they're going to do, they do. And then the last thing is they reassure you that you made a good decision. And if it's a sale where it's a repeat decision, I would submit to you they're making a reassurance strategy where you'll go back and buy more. And that could be everything from buying a $10 million home that you might only buy once or twice in your whole life, to buying toothpaste at the grocery store on a daily basis, and everything in between. So easy to acquire, perform, and reassure.
Okay. So jump into easy to acquire. What does that look like?
Yeah, in the wholesaling world, I'm going to specifically get to the wholesale. I don't want to get all esoteric about other industries. In the wholesaling world, what you have to do is you have to find the hot point for that client of yours on what their biggest thing is they're trying to do. So for example, if I go in and see a 5-year advisor who's at $600,000 of production and his management team's telling him he wants them to get to $1.2 million, I'm going to talk to him about growth in his practice. And I need to understand what that's about, because again, it's going to be by design. So easy to acquire, I'm going to give him strategies to show him or her how to be easy to acquire by the type of clients they want to work with. And there's a lot of ways around that. There's ways on how to do marketing. There's ways on how to do segmentation. There's ways on how to identify niches. There's ways on how to create problem solving within the niche you've identified. There's ways to create triggering, like going into those niches and asking people that are in your book of business that are in those niches how to do more business with others like them. So you can use your expertise that you use to help that particular client to help others. What a lot of wholesalers do is they assume that they're good at a lot of things. I would submit to you, be good at your firm, be good at what your firm represents, and be good at how you help advisors grow their practice. Let and train the advisor to, when he's in a niche, working a niche, let the client who's in the niche be the expert in the niche, and let that client introduce that financial advisor to others. And there's a lot of different ways to go after that and to look at that, to put yourself in a position to train advisors on how to do that well.
Sure.
And I think wholesalers can do that training. I did a lot of that training over the course of my career.
Well, and it's a touchy subject because I think when you come in knowing that you see a potential area that you can help, the challenge is how you approach that, because the person on the other side may not know they have the problem.
Right.
So if you're trying to solve a problem that someone doesn't know they have, you're actually a problem.
Right.
You don't realize that you're creating a
yeah.
problem. So how do you engage in a very delicate way where they can reveal to you the problem or the challenge or the opportunity, and then you come in as a solution rather than assuming? Is that part of that?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on to something that's really interesting. So specifically, let's just script it out to help.
Sure.
To help someone. So we're not sort of playing on the fringes.
Yeah.
So if I go in to see an advisor and I know what the problem is, but they don't really know what the problem is, I'm going to ask a client to write down who their top 5 clients are and ask them to write down. And typically they won't even write it down because they know off the top of their head. Here are your top 5 clients. How much AUM do they have with you, and what do they do in gross production with you on an annualized basis? If I could help you get 5 more clients like your best 5 clients, would you be interested in having this conversation go a little further? I don't want to say that's like some complicated,
right?
Because who's going to say no to that? Now they could say, "I'm really busy today. Could you come back on Tuesday?" That's good. You know what? No one ever says, "No, I don't want to talk to you about that."
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't want to do it. So then it becomes a question of, can I train people into the niches that they're in to get those individual best clients to make other introductions for them?
Yeah.
The process isn't that difficult. It really is. It's a statement, Mitch, and 2 questions.
Yeah.
The statement is, and if you're listening out there, this would be the time maybe to grab a pen if you want to take a write, or just mark the time on the podcast here so you can go back and listen to it. So the statement is, you're one of my best clients. That's not a question. It's a statement. You're not saying, by the way, you're my number 1 client. You're in my top 10.
Right.
You're in number 5. Because when you do any of those things, you've lost control of their mind. Because now their mind is going, oh, I'm one of his top 10 clients. I wonder how I get to number 5. I wonder how I get to number 1. Oh, I'm the number 1 client. I only have $10 million with him. I'm the richest person in his book of business. There's all kind of stuff there, and you've lost it. But if you're one of my best clients, that's a statement. And what that statement is called a bridge statement. And what it means is, you're important to me and I'm important to you. And that's a really powerful thing, right? So again, we're not going to get into the time today of all the psychology behind that. There's a lot of psychology to back that up. The next thing is a question. The question is, I'd like to do more business with blank like you. Do you think it's a good idea? Mm-hmm. I do more business with doctors like you, brain surgeons like you, retirees like you. Do you think it's a good idea? However, I would just give a caveat. If it was retirees, I would say, you're one of the best clients. I want to do more business with retirees that play golf on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at the women's club at XYZ Country Club at 10 o'clock. The more retired they are, the more specific you need to be. It's sort of easy to say to a guy, I want to do more business with orthopedic surgeons like you at XYZ hospital, right? They know who all the good orthopedics are at the hospital. By the way, if I was doing that with that person, I would also have pulled up on LinkedIn a profile of every orthopedic at that hospital, brought that in a manila folder with me, and I'm training the advisor on this now. Yeah. And then when the doctor says to me, because you're one of my best clients, I want to do more business with orthopedic surgeons like you. Do you think it's a good idea? And they say yes, right? Very few people say no. Most say yes. They've now made a statement in public, and they're willing to defend that with their life. I mean, we can go through world history for the last 4,000 years and see people that were very wrong that made a statement in public, knew they were wrong, and defended it with their life, their families' lives, their community, their nations, for that matter. So if that's the case, right, you're one of my best clients, I'm doing more business with orthopedic surgeons like you, do you think it's a good idea? Then the next question is the big question. What help, underline the word help, or advice, underline the word advice, would you give me in working with other orthopedic surgeons like you? Help and advice are 2 of the most powerful words in the English language, but you don't know which one triggers the people you're talking to. By putting them both in, you create a much more powerful question.
Sure.
What help or advice would you give me? And then you just sit back and you listen to them. Now, there's some roads you need to take them down, obviously, to do that well. But the fact of the matter is, that's
building a loyal partner
You're building a loyal partner. And if I'm a wholesaler and I can train an advisor on that, and they can go to their best clients to talk to them about that, and those best clients make those introductions to those individuals in their niches that they know well. The 55-year-old software engineer at XYZ company that gets laid off, where they laid off 50 of his buddies.
Exactly.
That you're not going to get all 50, but you might get introduced to 6.
Yeah.
That are the group he was in, because they're dealing with the same stuff that he's dealing with
if you work that way with me, I'm going to be like, I want Mark back here because he's now asking me questions and helping me in a way that is adding value that I don't get from the average Joe.
Right. So I want to make it easy to acquire for the advisor to get more clients. I'm not saying getting more clients is easy. I'm saying I want to give you good strategies consistently over time. And I may change those strategies. I may use one strategy for a couple of years, then come back in with another. But, I want to make sure that I train them up on the one if I know it really works, and then check in with them to see how it's working for them.
That's really good. Yeah. Well, what's the next thing?
Performance. And performance is interesting because as a financial wholesaler, I would ask this question because you'll enjoy doing it one-on-one with an advisor or in a group setting. But just ask the advisor, do you control the S&P 500? And most guys will laugh like you're doing. They'll laugh about that. In a group setting, I always get somebody that raises their hand or something. But the fact of the matter is no one controls the S&P 500. But we're all trained in this industry to compare ourselves to something we don't control. So here's the caveat to that. Great brands never, ever compare themselves with things they don't control. Now, you might think J.D. Powers and Associates and this study and that study, they're all controlled by the auto companies, right? So the issue is, I get there's third-party sources like Yelp and all that. I get that. But typically, if you're a great brand, you're not letting someone control your message.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be controlled, right, by someone else's narrative. You need to control it. So great brands never ever compare themselves to things they don't control. That would be the most important thing if you don't get anything else out of today. So if you don't control the S&P, what do you need to be thinking about? You need to be thinking about another performance standard. We discussed it a little bit the last time we were together, where I mentioned about retire with dignity, educate your kids, and leave a significant legacy.
Yeah.
Whether you're doing financial planning and you're using Easy Money or MoneyGuard Pro or whatever software package you're using or your firm has you using, that's all great. But you miss as a marketing this is the marketing side of branding. You don't just give someone and go, here's your financial plan, Mitch or Mark. You talk to them about, and you decide what title works for you. In my case, when I would work with advisors to help train them, I would train them on, this is their family index. So we would start a family index and establish their own family index for that family. Retiring with dignity, education their kids and grandkids, leaving a significant legacy. Because we can plug all the numbers in to the financial planning tool they're using. Again, Easy Money, MoneyGuard Pro, whoever they like to use. We can do all that. But what we're now doing is, now we're in control of the index. Because I asked the question, how many control the S&P? No one does.
Yeah.
So if you don't control it, why compare yourself to it? Compare yourself to, hey, look, the market's down, the market's up, these funds are off, blah, blah, blah. But your index is still going along.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to retire at 60.
So
and you're going to be able to send your kids to this college. And you're going to be able to leave this money to your favorite charity, church, or organization that you love. Have at it. That's performance standard.
Yeah.
So if you can train an advisor how to articulate the performance standard. And again, you can also give the advisor best practices. Hey, here's some things that other advisor companies are doing like yours with 3 advisors and 2 sales assistants, specifically that they're doing. You might want to try a few of these things in your practice. That's all like gold standard, Ritz-Carlton service stuff. And that's great. And that's a big part of your brand. You want to have that, but you also got to have this other piece.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful. Yeah, and it starts by asking questions. I like that too, because questions really do show you where the recipient or where the audience is at. I think another great question that might lead to the financial wholesaler and the advisor working with clients is when you're sitting, you're just asking the question, tell me what success looks like.
Right.
Because what you do is by listening, to them, they're telling you what they want you to do. Another great question is, if you're a financial advisor, is, asking the client, hey, before we get started, tell me what it is you think I do. Because we can assume that the person coming into our office knows all about our business. But the minute we stop and pause for a minute, we ask, tell me is what you think I do, they're going to tell you what they want you to do. Mm-hmm. And the minute they start telling you, well, I think you do this. Now, you probably do a number of things, but where they're leaning into what they think you do, that's where you actually start. You pick up there, because now you're kind of, what's the word I'm looking? You're engaging them at a level where they're actually interested. So they attach to it a lot sooner. But
I like
that's a great way.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a good idea. You guys are doing some good stuff. Good for you guys, Mitch. That's great.
So then this leads to, you got client acquisition, making it easy, performance, just straight up. What is the metric that we're going to find a way to control, that we can compare ourselves to, rather than something we can't control? What's the next thing?
Yeah, the next thing is reassure. How do you reassure clients? And I would submit to any wholesaler on this call that if they went to their advisors and asked them, does your client know you do, let's go down to the X's, do continuing ed because you have a CFP that's 20 hours a year. You have a SEMA, you need 20 hours. You have a CFA, you got to do 40 hours every couple of years. Do they know that? No. Does your client know that you are meeting with people like me on a regular basis from high-end asset management companies that are given the intellectual property, and that this intellectual property is allowing you to make better decisions on your muni bond portfolio or your private credit portfolio or your equity portfolio? No. Does your client know that if you're with, depending on the firm you're with, that you go to their annual conference or you go to their quarterly training meetings? Does your client know that's the case? And oh, by the way, do they know that also with your licensing, there's additional continuing ed? Well, that's all the stuff you pay for.
Right.
And in a world where people are driving down price on the product side, hence the wholesaler side, the advisor's not trying to draw down price there. They're trying to create a bigger spread between what the asset management company charges. Let's just say it's 1%. So the asset management company's product is 20. So that advisor wants to maintain that 80 basis point margin in that relationship for their fee for what they do. Well, if the clients don't know what you do, why not go to NerdWallet? Or why not or why not go to Robinhood? So creating reassurance strategies as a wholesaler, if you can come in and share things like that. List everything your team has done over the last 6 months, from a training standpoint. List everything your team's done when you've gone out to a conference call, you've gone to a lunch meeting at the branch, whatever it looks like, and then share that with your clients a couple times a year. That's a really good thing.
The challenge with that, but it's not to say that this isn't important, is that some of that work, it's hard to measure, because you're doing things that don't necessarily equal a direct response. It's a bit more passive. You're building social credibility. You're building front of mind awareness. But not every advisor is going to respond to that, even though they see you, right? So you're sending that email their way, just saying, hey, thinking about you, or you're reinforcing that you know something more than the average because you're giving them an email that has a topic that might add value to them. They won't necessarily respond and say, thank you for that. But here's what we know. If you don't do those things, you'll get zero credibility. When you do those, you're going to get some. You may not know. You may actually get more than you know, because you don't get such a direct connect. We were talking a while back, but there are these moments we go into certain hotels, right? Certain resorts. And one of these little amenities you get among many, but down in Cabo, for example, they call their amenity in the room, they call it the honor bar. And there's this idea of when you walk in, you've got all these treats, the fridge is stocked full of drinks and anything you want, and you take a drink, and by the time you come back that afternoon, they've already restocked it. It's like constantly overflowing. The facts are is most people don't use that honor bar very much. I know when my wife and I went, we didn't really use it, but there was this awareness that we had it. So there was an impression that couldn't be measured in the usage of what we ate or what we drank from the honor bar, but we had an impression that we had something special there. It was a premium access. And I think kind of what you're getting at is that work of reassurance is showing up to go, I have to do this to keep myself seen as being premium, adding value, even though you may not get the feedback you want to see like you do when you close a sale.
Correct. So here's a way to take that line of thinking and move it along a little bit better to create a solution. So this is in the late 70s. Wrigley is the head of the gum world, right? You talk about not having monopolies, but Wrigley had a monopoly. They had like 96% of the gum business. They had sewed up the taste market pretty well with juicy fruit, winter mint, spearmint, all that kind of good stuff. These guys decide they want to peel off a part of Wrigley's market share. And they come up with this little gum company. And the little gum company, they do some things that physically you can see, right? They create a fatter stick of gum, and it's packaged a little differently. And that's just all esoteric, but it does change the game a little bit. They knew they couldn't win on taste, right? Because Wrigley had that down. So they had to do something else because they weren't going to win on taste. So what they decided to do was they decided, and they coined a term, and they ran it on their original ads, and they still run it to this day. And the ad goes, Mitch, tell me if you remember this, but the ad goes, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Trident sugarless gum for their patients that chew gum. So what they're doing there is they're using a third-party testimonial. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Trident. So the experts are recommending our brand to you for their clients that choose sugarless gum. And they peeled off about a 15% market share from Wrigley and then ultimately sold the company 5 or 6 years later. And Trident's still around last time I checked. And now the packaging's a little different in some of the places where you see it. But they pulled off, a major coup. You saw the same thing with Dollar Shave Club in the space where, Procter & Gamble paid $55 billion for Gillette razors.
Wow. And
Dollar Shave said, we think we can pull off part of that share. And how'd they do it, right? They went in with a $4,800 YouTube ad that people liked, and they just said, we'll just send it to your house on a monthly basis, as opposed to you go in the store and have to buy it.
Right. And
that company grew, and in 3 years, they sold to Unilever. The 5 principals of that company sold to Unilever for $1.5 billion. And the embedded cost at Procter & Gamble, not only on the $55 billion, but on the annual marketing of Gillette, the annual paying engineers to make sure the tungsten's just right in the extruder, when they're putting the blades in it. I mean, that was another $6 billion of overhead. And these guys went in with a $4,800 ad and took it. That tells me anyone can do it if they have a good reassurance strategy. Right. And then the reassurance strategy allowed them people to go in and continue to buy their razors and have them delivered. And once you're on the delivery cycle, you never really get off.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm going to digress for a second, Mitch, but then we'll kind of close this part out. But that's why you're starting to see now all these companies that are coming up with these third-party, if you will, internet/cell phone companies where the software has in it where they'll cancel your subscription services automatically for you. That's because people forgot and they've been still getting a delivery on all this kind of stuff. And what they're using is a way to save money. Monthly, let's save you $500 of prescriptions that you don't even know you're doing anymore. And that's $6,000 a year. I mean, there's a reason why there's an advent to that now.
Right.
And why we're seeing that all over. Companies go into that model and offering that as part of their software.
Yeah.
So I think as a wholesaler, you got to offer something too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap, we got talking about branding. We're talking about making client acquisition easier. Yep. We're dealing with the performance factor. Yep. We have to think about that. And then we want to build in reassurance strategy. Yep. So what could a wholesaler, as we end here, what can a wholesaler do today that might be one step or a couple things that would help move that branding game along?
Yeah. I think I would think they would add in when they're doing, this isn't about like change every meeting you're doing and going in with something, but you do have meetings on the books that you're going into. go into those meetings and, like you said earlier, ask some of those questions. Do you know what it is that I do?
Yeah.
What is it that will make you more successful? Mm-hmm. How can I help your team grow? Who needs help on your team? Why do they need help? Things like that, where you become a valued partner and part of their, in a sense, their organization.
Yeah.
And then once you're in there, if your thing is seminars, go do seminars. If your thing is cold, that they don't do many cold call nights anymore. I'm dating myself, but if it's lead generation, whatever that looks like, help them out with that. But you got to find out what they're doing. Selling, look, you're a wholesaler, you're out there, maybe you got good training, maybe you didn't, but I can almost guarantee that you haven't gotten a lot of marketing training. Or if your firm is doing marketing, they're not marketing through you, they're doing it on a national level with national ads. So by combining the two, you're creating differentiation and design in your practice, which then allows you to differentiate yourself from the other wholesalers that are out there. And then you become the referral mechanism. Right. I mean, the holy grail of this would be, Mitch, guy's got a $10 million trade. He calls you up and goes, look, I got a $10 million trade. I'm going to give you 5 of it, but I can't give you the whole 10. Who would you recommend I give the other 5 to? That's the holy grail. That's when you know you've arrived, right? When you're referring to other asset management companies.
Yeah.
The power in that's amazing. That's all because of brand.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
Well, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah. Since I've retired, I started a ministry called Power of 4 Ministry. Power of 4 is the number 4, power4ministries.org. And that's just talking about helping men and women so they don't go it alone in the business. And we do a daily touch with them. It's 3 minutes, just a daily little devotional, keep people moving in the right direction. So it's power4ministries.org. You can go on the website, or you can go to LinkedIn. It's Mark with a K, Warren, at Power 4 Ministries. And that'll pull you up on LinkedIn, and you can just subscribe and follow us. And we'd love to have you on board. And there's a lot of great advisors and a lot of great wholesalers that are on our website there and on our LinkedIn page, where we're passing along some pretty cool data if you're interested in that.
The Financial Wholesaler podcast is sponsored by Executive Scheduling Associates. If you're looking for appointment setting services, visit our website at esasolutions.com.